United States of America, Mrs. Margaret gave birth to Mr. Clinton, their son, Clinton Eastwood Jr., later known as Clint. Mrs. Margaret describes the day. "I have fallen in love with him since I first saw him, and this love has been largely restored in most of his later iterations." He grew up in the period known as the Great Depression, moving from one place to another with his family. During this period, he performed some acting roles while playing with his younger sister Jane. He lived temporarily in the care of his grandmother, Mrs. Virginia, and she had a great influence on his personality. Describing her in one of the interviews, "My mother is the person I loved and loved the most in my life, as well as my grandmother, who lived with her as my parents were looking for work during the great crisis of the 1930s, was an independent and progressive woman, who was living alone at the time. Who taught me how to drive the car was letting me drive her car. I was to her the best of the young men, and for me it was a school where I learned a lot. Team games didn't interest him much. He liked tennis and golf, and he talks about golf. I started it when I was 13, collecting my money for the weekend to go to a golf club near Auckland. In fact, I never took lessons in it. But it was a personal effort, knowing that I started learning correctly when I was 30 and I still play until today when conditions allow me. And a few years ago I planned a personal playground with a private building with all its tools." He participated in school plays while studying at Oakland High School of Art. And after graduating he held a number of jobs, and also served in the U.S. Army. He describes one of the situations with his father during that period. "I spoke to my father one day, and I told him I wanted to leave the university for a while and join the acting institute. He replied, 'Don't dream about that much.' I mentioned this incident to him recently, and he remembered it and did not comment. He laughed. He just laughed." Eastwood began acting in minor roles before he achieved fame in the American series, Rawhide, which ran from 1958 to 1964, after which he appeared in the trilogy The Man Without a Name. He started turning towards dramatic films, including what earned him or being nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe several times. He directed and produced most of his films, beginning in 1971. In Play Misty for Me, Clint Eastwood won 2 Oscars in 1993 for Unforgiven, Best Director and Best Film, for his role as the tough and witty man in films including the Dirty Harry series, in which he played Inspector Harry Callahan, and the role of the nameless man in Sergio Leone's Triple Dollar series Within the Spaghetti Western Wave. Eastwood starred in several films throughout his career. Movies including Unforgiven, Dirty Harry, The Good, The Bad, The Ugly, A Fistful of Dollars, Kelly's Heroes, and Hang Them Up. Personal relationships, marriage, romantic relationships, and family. Eastwood's relationships varied in duration, seriousness, and strength, as well as intertwined and intertwined. He proposed to Maggie Johnson in 1953. He had an alleged affair in which he had a child but was placed in an adoptive role. His affair occurred during his marriage to Johnson, including his affair with stunt performer Roxanne Tunis, which lasted for 14 years and gave birth to his daughter Kimber in 1964. Johnson allegedly continued this open marriage with Eastwood, with whom she had 2 children, Kyle, whom she gave birth to in 1968, and Allison, born in 1972. She eventually got divorced. His relationship with actress Sondra Locke began to be serious when they moved to live together in 1975. And she was in a state of astonishment when she discovered the continuation of his sexual relations with other women at a later time. Clint Eastwood had a son and daughter, Scott, born 1986, and Catherine, born 1986, from his relationship with flight attendant Jacqueline Reeves. When Eastwood and Locke separated in 1989, Locke sued for alimony. In the 1990s, Eastwood was associated with actress Frances Fisher and their daughter Francesca, born in 1993. Eastwood's second marriage to news anchor, Dina Ruiz, was in 1996, and they had a daughter, Morgan, who was born that year. Eastwood's marriage to Ruiz lasted until 2013 and he has been seen with several women since then. Property edit. Eastwood's California properties include a 15,000 square foot property in Carmel by the Sea, a 6,136 square foot home in Bel Air, a 1,067.5 acre Rising River Ranch in Boerne, and an apartment in Burbank, as well as a large unauthorized home near his seat in Bel Air. Eastwood also owns a 5,700 square foot home in Sun Valley, Idaho, and a 1.5 acre property open to the ocean in Maui, Hawaii. He lived in several homes in the Studio City, Sherman Oak, Tiburon, and Pebble Beach areas.